Welcome back to the Pair Program. I'm your host, Tim Winkler, alongside my co-host, Mike Gruen. Mike, all the talk around here is back to school. So are your kids, are they the type that are like super excited about that? Are they dreading it?
Oh yeah, two teenage boys. Oh, they're raring to go back. They are I
was gonna say that's sarcasm.
Excited. The only I think the only exciting thing is that for my older one, he's a senior, so that'll be nice. Sort of the end is in sight, at least for high school. And then my younger one is going to be a freshman this year, so he's going to a new school. So there's some
that's exciting.
Mix of excitement and I'm sure anxiety and dread going into all that. So. But yeah,
I always love to see like all the parents with just a look of glee on their face, like get these kids out of here. I've had enough. The summer's over.
A little bit. I don't know. I like having them around during the summer. I don't know.
You're just saying that because this is going to go live and they'll
not at all. I mean,
wife will stream it.
No, not at all. Because I do also, when they go to school, the nice thing about them coming home from school is that it's like a nice, like little reminder, like, hey, like, this is how many hours I've been working. So it's sort of it's a nice little reminder of like start wrapping things up. Because I think with everybody home all the time, it's easy to go till 9 o'clock at night and not even realize it.
Are you just saying that because your boss is going to stream this and hear this?
Yeah, that's absolutely it. Nailed it.
My parent will play off of back to school. So
there you go.
All right, good stuff. Well, let's go ahead and give the listeners a little bit of a preview of what we're talking about on today's episode. So we've got a pretty action-packed episode for our listeners. It's centered entirely around the Department of Defense SkillBridge program. So for those not familiar, the SkillBridge program is an opportunity for military service members to gain valuable civilian work experience through specific industry training or apprenticeships or internships during their last 180 days of service. So SkillBridge connects these transitioning service members with industry partners and real world job experiences. So this will be a useful episode for startups and employers that are looking to maybe engage or hire service members, and likewise for military members transitioning into civilian life. This will be a nice little maybe how-to if you've never dabbled with it before. So with us today is John Sokol, former naval flight officer with 20 years of distinguished military service, who successfully transitioned into civilian life through the SkillBridge program. And then alongside John, we have Cameron Watts, the innovation director at a dual-use startup, Zero Eyes, that hires extensively through the SkillBridge program. And I'll point out that Cam has a military background as well as a former member of the 75th Ranger Regiment, paired with a career in the world of venture capital prior to joining Zero Eyes as well. So John and Cam, thank you both for your service and thank you for joining us on the Pair program today.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
All right. So before we dive in, we do kick things off with our Pair Me Up segment. Here's where we all kind of go around the room and spitball a complimentary pairing of our choice. Mike, you lead us off. What do you got?
So today's is not particularly exciting, but I'm excited about it because I'm a nerd. Knickknacks and museum wax. So as you can see behind me, those who can't, I have a bunch of stuff on the shelves back here. We also have cats, and there's also not a lot of space. So just this morning, I got some museum wax. It arrived. I'm looking forward to sticking all of my things down so they stop falling over. And it's what they use in museums. It's like it's semi-permanent. Like you can move them, but like they're down and it's not meant for like moving them around again. So, but it comes off clean and all that. But I'm excited to get all my stuff locked down back there because I'm tired of cleaning it up, putting it back. So,
man, that there is. You are nerding out on this one. That was I've never heard of that. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I stumbled on it and I had no idea that it existed. And then I read it. Somebody posted something about it and I was like, oh, I need to look into that. I need that in my life.
I remember my uncle used to have these little shadow boxes that would hang on the wall, and just put like these little trinkets in it. And, someone was roughhousing around, bump into the wall, like they all just kind of like fall out. So I could see museum wax being a useful addition to something like that. But
yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. I'll jump in. So again, kind of given that it's back to school week, I'll turn back the hands of time to when I was in elementary school and thinking about some classic pairings from like a snack and lunch perspective. I was going to go with Lunchables and Capri Suns as like a good 1-2 punch for like food and drink in elementary school back in the day. I don't know if they even still make these processed foods like they used to. But for those that don't remember Lunchables, I feel sorry for you because they were amazing. But they're these little individual prepackaged meals with lunch meats and little cheeses and crackers. So it's like a little kid version of a charcuterie board. And then Capri Suns. If you don't know what Capri Suns are, then I might have lost for words. But it's a staple kid drink packed with sugar, and they come in that little impossible to open metallic pouch that you stab with a straw and it just spills everywhere. That's my throwback pairing. So I'm going Lunchables and Capri Suns. You guys know what I'm talking about with Lunchables, right?
Absolutely.
I'm too old.
100%.
You don't remember, Mike?
It's not that I don't remember. I was in college. Like,
I was going to say, you really showed your age there by defining the two. You can sort of throw in the Dunkaroos with those as well. With
some Gushers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They still exist, but they're on that like side of the aisles that you don't go anymore.
the forbidden aisle. All right, cool. Let's pass it over to our guest, John. We'll start with you. Quick intro and your pairing.
Yeah. So hey, how you doing, John Sokol? Again, served Navy, naval flight officer, flew E2s, which is a plane you've probably barely ever seen. If you look close on an aircraft carrier, you'll kind of see it in the corner, just because no one likes it because it has propellers and it's not a jet that does cool stuff. So, but again, look quick, you'll see it. Did that for 20 years, retired last year, then joined the company I work for now, which is called 2 Circle, which we do consulting work for the Navy. So it's been great. Go back to the pairing. So I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Big Steelers fan. I was thinking through, kind of time of season right now, getting excited for the start of the season. And I think for me, a good pairing, opening day of football, especially in the Steelers this year, play 1:00 game against the Falcons, a couple Sundays from now. Opening day of football and a good cold beer. That's fine.
Preach. I'm getting super excited. It's that there's that crispness in the air that always like makes me feel like the football season's about to begin. So I as well am getting pretty excited. We're Commanders fans here. It's complete 180 on our entire team, coaching staff. So there's a lot to look forward to, considering we won 4 games last year. But yeah, you guys are always in contention, I think, right?
I mean, I feel like this year, this is one of those, you could tell me they're going to be, 5-12 or 12-5, both of which are completely reasonable.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting season.
It'll entirely dictate your credit card bill on the alcohol consumption throughout the season. I like that, 1 beer or 50. We'll see how the game goes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks again for joining us. Cam, how about yourself? Quick intro and your pairing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cameron Watts, as you said, spent some time with 1st Ranger Battalion down in Savannah at Hunter Army Airfield, which is where I still live over here in Savannah. So enjoying the humidity and the heat. So recovering venture capitalist who has now worked at a portfolio company that we invested in years ago, and on the product team as the innovation director at Zero Eyes, working on weapons detection. So I'm going to let that kind of lead into my perfect pairing, which is birdies and bullets. So I got the golf clubs and then the weapons detection. So that's the perfect pairing for me.
Birdies and bullets.
I do shoot as well. So I'll keep, neither one is as straight as I'd like it to be. So
I was going to say, how many birdies are you averaging out there on a round?
Yeah. So right now I'd say none. But I think I'm about a 14 handicap, 13 these days. So
sounds
they
like
trickle in they trickle in when the holes are short.
Sounds like you and I would be great cart partners. I'm right there with you.
I'm a blast to play with. That's all that matters.
Hey, we actually talked earlier. I'll be down there in a month or so. So looking forward to, teeing it up with you. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again for joining us, Cam. And that'll kind of wrap us up on the Pair Me Up segment. So let's go ahead and transition into the heart of the discussion. So like I mentioned, we're talking about the SkillBridge program on today's episode. And so I was doing some additional research both on SkillBridge and a little bit more on Zero Eyes, Cam. And I stumbled across an interesting quote from one of your co-founders and the COO of Zero Eyes, Rob Huberty, who's a former Navy SEAL. And for a little further context, Zero Eyes is a veteran-owned and operated company founded by former Navy SEALs. We'll get more into that. But this quote, I wanted to share it with our listeners because I think it's a great jump off to the conversation around the importance of SkillBridge beyond just the opportunities specifically as well. But Rob said, and I quote, "My transition from the military to civilian life was more difficult than I imagined. I struggled to find meaning in the corporate world. So did the rest of the Zero Eyes team. After the military, we all had jobs that were generally considered good, maybe even great, and went to universities considered excellent, but we lacked a mission-driven purpose." There's a little bit more to the quote, but I'm going to end it right there. So I wanted to start the discussion with you, Cam, and maybe expanding a little bit more on a little bit on the origin story of Zero Eyes and how SkillBridge has become maybe a fundamental part of the growth at the startup. And then from there, we can dive a little bit deeper into how the program works from the employer perspective. And then we'll bounce over to you, John, and hear it from the candidate perspective, somebody going through the program. So Cam, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rob's quote could not be more heartfelt on my end as well. So when I got out, I was treading water trying to figure out what to do next, but I can get to that later. So Zero Eyes was brought to inception from, like I said, a group of Navy SEALs. Mike Lahip, the CEO. There was some active shooter scenarios going on, and his daughter looked at him one day and asked if that was going to happen at her school. And he started at PTA meetings and things, kind of probing in, hey, what sort of protocols do you have in place and things like that. And he kind of just, the more and more he dove into it, the more and more scared he got of the situation. So instead of sitting back and worrying about it, decided to do something and created what we have today. Started with a bunch of guys in the basement walking around and putting guns up in front of different cameras and getting them to register it from different angles. So since then, it's 6-7 years now, and Series B just did a pretty nice funding round. So and then besides starting with veterans, being founded by veterans, that mission-driven group and finding that purpose has really been so deep into the culture that it's incredible. It brought me in and brings a lot of us into the unit. And again, we kind of look at it as a unit, right? Everybody's got your back and everybody gets what they need to get done. And there's a lot less of that, red tape and bureaucracy that you see at some of the large organizations. But yeah, so SkillBridge has been an incredible benefit to Zero Eyes. I think just a quick number for you. Over the past 2 years, we've hired out 22 of the SkillBridge interns. So huge opportunity for us to pull great talent in and then bring them on, immediately following their internship.
That's awesome.
So how does it work? So how does an organization kind of get involved? And then what are the benefits from everything from like skills, work ethic, or cost? Where are some of these advantages to an employer getting involved?
Yeah. So realistically, you're getting. Let's kind of start with best practices. I think is that so you, as the organization, you sign up through SkillBridge and you put your self out there saying, hey, we're open up to opportunities and here's kind of the list there. And again, this is me learning in hindsight because it did not exist on my exodus. But so it's out there and the candidate will go on, look at the organization, either done by maybe region or organization type, what industry it's in, things like that, kind of filter it down for them. And then they'll submit a resume that'll come in, and we actually have a dedicated SkillBridge kind of owner at Zero Eyes that manages all of that and goes out and really starting to push further initiatives into SkillBridge because it's been so successful for us. But go in there and then start to pair them not only with what their resume says or what their military kind of background was, because that doesn't always immediately translate. So then kind of start to do a little bit of a personality and character traits that'll match with certain parts of the organization. Hey, this one will fit over here at ops. This one may want to be on the install team. This one may fit on the product team, et cetera. And we've also looked at kind of rotational programs to kind of say, okay, hey, this is somebody who's got a decent skill set in a couple different areas, but could really hone and gain some exposure in other areas of business. And then they can hop around the organization through different departments, which really allows them to build some experience quickly. And that's extremely advantageous because it's kind of that catch-22, right? Like, hey, how do I get experience without having experience, right? And so it kind of pushes that a little bit inwards. And then from there, I think, if it's not a fit for Zero Eyes, one of the benefits to kind of the startup ecosystem and the venture ecosystem is the networking that's done. So we also, if it doesn't fit for us or maybe we don't fit for them, we very quickly open up our Rolodex and start to place them at other places as well. So you're getting talent that you wouldn't necessarily get to see. And as well as just the talent that's there, they're not typically putting themselves out there because they kind of have a little bit of that imposter syndrome. Maybe they're getting out and they don't think that they're qualified enough yet. So they're not pushing into those arenas yet, but everybody's got the opportunity and the chance. So getting that visibility is really been successful for us.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Like the carousel approach, where it's like, spend some time in finance, spend some time in product, spend some time here and there. So I think I've seen that in internships before, and I think that's a really nice approach to folks that don't really always know what they're going to do.
That's right. I was raised with the mindset of to the man with only a hammer, every problem's a nail. So now I just try to keep building my toolbox instead of just having a hammer.
I love it. I was curious on cost. Is there a cost to the employer, or is there actually a savings? Considering it sounds like these individuals are still are they most for the most part still active duty for the last 180 days?
Yeah, that's right. So kind of best practices of it would be to start figuring that out about 180 days out. And in a perfect scenario, you get a hybrid situation, or it can be kind of full time on premises, right? It's really up to the candidate themselves, or to the company and how they set it. We are a relatively hybrid organization, so we're open to that. And we also have full time remote positions, but we also have ones in the office, and we have a location in Hawaii. So I feel there's probably a lot of appeal to go there for 180 days. So I think that's something that will really ramp up here shortly at our ZOC, the Zero Eyes Operations Center out there. So there's no cost to the company, no cost to the individual. It's technically like they just took a little break for 180 days before they get out officially, and then go hop on the bus and see where it takes you.
Cool. We'll get a little bit deeper into it as we get through a little bit more of John's feedback on the program as well, because we actually had a former guest on the program, on the pair program, that kind of talked a little bit more about a startup that he was building that kind of saw some holes in the program where there was room for some improvement. But I do want to hear, John, from your perspective. Walk me through, from a service member's, mindset, getting introduced to SkillBridge. Is there a lot of awareness around it? How did you hear about it? And then how was your experience kind of transitioning using the program?
Yeah. So, I guess for everything Cam said is pretty accurate as far as like my experience as well. Once I got to my SkillBridge, so leading up to my actual retirement, which was last March 1st or whatever. I started looking around. I mean, I think SkillBridge at this point is one of those things that I think most service members have probably heard of. The problem is it's like you can't get from got it, I've heard of it. Now, how do I actually do it? And that's where I think, there's like kind of a disconnect with all these guys and, ladies and everything coming out is like, there's no formalized process. There's no, hey, I'm going to call the SkillBridge office today and talk to them and they can help me out in this process. So, from that, you kind of have to be a little more forward leaning and, which is easy enough for me, a little more senior, kind of been around things, kind of understand how organizations work. So for me to do it, it really wasn't hard. It was, as far as the Navy was concerned, it was literally a single sheet of paper. I filled it out, handed it to my boss. He signed it and I was done. And then I was kind of free to start looking around for a SkillBridge, opportunity. And I did that same thing, went to that lousy website that, you can filter out, go by region, all that kind of stuff. I live in Norfolk, Virginia, so I wanted to stay close by, and I did. Found one with Steel, the chainsaw manufacturer, and which was awesome. Kind of the same thing, like Cam said. For them, there was a it was like that point of contact that was on the website. Contacted them again, kind of have to be forward leaning, go in there. I eventually talked to somebody who got me in touch eventually with a guy. Basically, what he did, he was like, "Hey, go onto the website, look at job openings, pick a department you might think is interesting, and then we'll kind of go from there." And so I picked e-commerce just because it was something kind of outside of obviously what I've done and seemed interesting. So he got me in contact with the director of e-commerce there, which, by the way, Steel, you see them all over commercials, everything like that. At that point in the United States, the e-commerce department at Steel was one human being, that guy, which still kind of blows my mind away. But I would just think they would have a few more folks. So, like you're talking to him, he's like, "Yeah, it's me." Like, "Oh, okay." We talked to him for a while and he's like, "Yeah, I think it'd be a good fit." And, we were off to the races. He brought me on. Kind of did the same thing, just like Cam was saying. He was awesome dude to work for and with and everything. He was like, "Hey, if e-commerce isn't your thing," and really at that point, I kind of realized it wasn't my thing because it was a like analytics type role, and I don't know, I just couldn't be like heads down on a computer just analyzing data all the time. It's just kind of not how I work. So, but that was fine. It was, in and of itself, that was the education I learned. Sometimes it's not just learning that, hey, I love this thing. It's learning I don't love this thing too. So that was my case. But he allowed me to go around to the different departments in Steel and just kind of talk to the folks, get a feel for what they do, see if anything interests me around those different offices as well. So all in all, I mean, it was a fantastic opportunity. I'd recommend obviously everyone do it. I guess, and I don't know if we're going to go down the road or if you want to wait, but the big barriers, for the military side of it is that wherever you're working at, that place has to basically accept that they're not going to have somebody to fill your job. So if it's the easiest one, I think, to always, if you're like an emergency room doctor, you can't be like, "Well, I want to do a SkillBridge," because like, well, now I don't have an emergency room doctor anymore. For me, it was a little easier. Like I'm getting ready to retire. I'm kind of hanging on just barely. So super easy for me to go off and do that. But for some folks in little more high demanding jobs, they actually can't do it because of that. So that kind of stinks. But I mean, that's
the command has to kind of like approve you doing the program. It's not like you just everybody
100%.
Qualifies to.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. Yes. The command has to do it. And there's actually a few more rules. I wish I knew them better. I should have taken a look before this, because now there's different rules now about like, if you are, I retired as a 05, as a commander. It doesn't matter what it means is the higher like the ranks you are, the less time they actually give you to do SkillBridge. So instead of doing the 180 days, I think now they'll let you do 3 months of it or whatever. Maybe it is 3 months, whatever it is, it kind of condenses. So then, you start running into all these problems too with your timing, right? Because it's like, okay, well, my March 1st, I'm going to retire. So you back that up 3 months. And now that's, December 1st. And then you start looking at people and how they do quarterly kind of, a lot of the big companies do cohorts. So they're doing like every quarter, every 6 months or however they're doing it. And it's like, well, I literally, if you don't have somebody who has flexibility, then it's like, well, you just can't do it. There's just no way around
Yeah.
it. There's no way to get into it. So that kind of stinks. But I mean, I get it from company standpoints and the Navy standpoint too. So that I wish that was a little better for the whole process. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of it, I guess.
I personally went out and scouted the site, the database myself, just to kind of get a feel for it if I was a user. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement from a user experience, right? It seems like it's basic enough to where, you can sort and filter, based on some of the criteria you mentioned, Cam. But if you wanted to really go deep into it and maybe it get a little bit more granular based on, ideally, looking into, I don't know, little micro verticals or something, get a little bit more specific into some of the types of roles. I didn't find that much of the filters. It's one of those things where I don't know. I see a lot of government sites that probably could use quite a bit of polish to build up the UX. But at the same token, like, it's obviously the program is the foundational piece. Now it's time to how do we build on it, right? Like some of the things you mentioned, like how do we build more awareness for to how to navigate the program, or maybe here's a short list of knowing what you've done for us. Maybe here's a short list of some of the top areas that could translate well for you. I kind of alluded to it previously, but the former founder, Steve Chang was his name. Headlamp was the name of the company. It was kind of like SkillBridge as a service. And then they baked in like an AI kind of matchmaking technology based on, you shortlist, kind of the skills that you're familiar with or that you're well versed in. And it's almost like brings top of funnel the opportunities that could be best suited for you to kind of cut out maybe some of the noise, because there's going to be a lot of companies and roles that really just aren't relevant at all, or would never be in your short list, but they still are going to be there and you're going to have to just sift through it. So
yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, the opposite is also like, so as someone, I worked at a company, we had it was founded by veterans. I loved working there. I know the benefit of getting veterans out. And one of the challenges I've had is I'm not a veteran. It's hard for me to do that mapping of like, this is what you were doing in the military and this is how it translates to like what you can do here. And I'm curious, like, what the experience is like for as someone who wants to tap into this, like, what are the options, and how do I get more involved? Or is it maybe doing that second order thing? Like, I like the idea of like, hey, these people, we have a whole program and we had people intern at our company, and and now we can help them find a job, not necessarily with us, but beyond our doors. And I'm just curious, sort of like, right, how would I, if I wanted to get involved in this, like, what would be your recommendations? And I'm curious from both perspectives. Cam, if you wanted to start.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So first and foremost, I would say it's like understanding like so even like John just said, right? Like, oh, I'm an 05, but it doesn't matter, right? It's like understanding what it takes to get there, what the credentialing, the criteria is, and because it just has a different nomenclature. It's all done in the civilian world. It's just got a different title, right? It's a different, wording, different verbiage, however you want to describe it. But like, so I was a team leader in Ranger Regiment, right? So like when I look at my resume on paper for the military, it's like, oh, that's cool. I was a trigger puller and door kicker, right? But then like, what does that mean out here, right? It's like, well, leadership, I don't know, and like, but it's hard to equate, right? And so really like starting to understand what those soft skills and hard skills. I don't like that terminology, but what those are, and perfect example, it's like situational awareness, right? I think that a lot of us have heightened situational awareness, which gives us more intuition, gives us the ability to be more creative and understand different dynamics in cross-functional teams. But those are things that you don't think about when you're like kind of pigeonhole yourself. So actually having people like you, Mike, to like jump on and start to like think through what we did to get there is going to be more beneficial than us trying to tell you or the DoD trying to tell you, because we're kind of stuck in this like mantra of what we've done, right? And so getting the civilians to help us understand what those skills are, and because we share the same skills, it's just we did it in the military for a little while. So honestly, like, you doing the research and digging deep down in there and trying to figure out how they relate to what you do is probably one of the biggest, most valuable ways to help.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the data points too, Cam. On you guys have not to continue to tout Zero Eyes here, but I'd say it's from like a poster boy of like how it's done well. You guys have a dedicated SkillBridge landing page, right? And within that, I kind of pulled the quote from one of the co-founders, right? So immediately I go there. I'm a transitioning service member. I feel a level of connection there, and I kind of understand why the program was stood up. And then beyond that, there's data points immediately that kind of show that you rattled one off. 22 veterans converted into the program, and then one of the stat that jumped off the page to me was that 87% of the interns converted to full-time hires, right? Because I think that's the other big piece here. It's like, it's great to get the experience and it's great to get the sampling of this role here or this role there. But the reality is you want to kind of get it right the first time if you can, right? And you want to find a good fit. And so there's a good case study here where, some of the things that worked well with this 87% conversion stat, I'd love to see how it compares to, some other organizations that are on the program, and why was it so high for you all compared to maybe something that's lower for Steel? Maybe Steel didn't have that conversion stat that you all had. Was it because you guys are veteran owned and you have this ability to relate a little bit better, or what was it? I think those are things that would be interesting to dissect and try to figure out how to get that conversion rate as high as it can be.
So I'm so glad you brought that up, because one of the other pieces of data that I think is very valuable to understand that how we do it with SkillBridge is we're looking for future employees, not interns. So we're immediately trying to say who qualifies to somebody that fits us, who comes in here and is going to add value to our team, and who can we add value to. And again, we're looking at this as that, hey, the internship is you to get your feet wet, and then you're going to come full time, right? That's kind of the idea that we have when we look at this. I don't know that that's done across the board, and I don't want to talk about any other organizations, but I think that is being the forefront of how we view candidates, is thinking, are they going to be future employees? Is amazing.
And I think that's how internship should be. An internship should be an extended job interview. It is hey, we want to take this opportunity. Like, I've done internships in various places for various reasons, whether it's with schools or with maybe in areas that need help, or whatever it is. But it's an extended job interview. We're going to take a chance. We're willing to take a little bit of risk here, and we're mitigating that risk by it's an internship. But the goal here is, at the end of it, there's some defined things. And like, if things go well, it's a full-time job. And if it's not a perfect fit, like, you got some skills out of it, we got something out of it, and we're more than happy to help, like, you in your future endeavors. And that's the way I look at internships. And I hope that's the way most companies look at internships. I'm sure that's not the case, but it would be my ideal.
Yeah, and one more thing too, that just to kind of piggyback on something John said earlier, was like, it's just as valuable, if not more valuable, to learn what you don't want to do as much as it is what you do want to do. And for me, it was very quickly like, figure out what I don't want to do fast, so I can get to what I do want to do and do it for longer, right? And but the second retention rate piece that I'll say about Zero Eyes that I think is I'll tout us a little bit, but it's a vibe, right? Like our mantra, our motto is, save time, save lives. You all feel it. We feel it when we work there. It's a heavy thing that we as a country feel. So we feel the purpose there, and then kind of the vibe and the culture of like, just get it done. and help the teammates, right? Like that, you feel it and you're used to it. So I think that really helps us get kind of over that first bar of people who may want to leave.
Yeah.
And John, I'm curious from your perspective, like when you were looking, were you able to see, like, I don't know what companies are in, are on SkillBridge, but are you able to get some sense of like, is there a lot of companies that sort of have more of that vibe, that have that more mission driven? Like there's a definite, like, I loved when I worked at Red Owl, where it was military founded and we had mission and we had that, like, it was just like, and you could tell like from day one when I interviewed, and like, I don't know if you can, as you're going through and trying to do the transition, are you, as you're looking, are you able to see any of that? Or is it like just big company after big company after big company? You don't really know what the cultural vibe is going to be like.
Yeah. So when I first started looking, just went to that website, started doing a bunch of just kind of, cold emailing or whatever you want to call it. And tell you, it's a lot of toads to make a print, so to speak. So there's a lot of that on there, and it's not really well defined on the site that says, this is what we're looking for, is that or this. It was more like it's a listing of the companies. Then you contact the company, then you kind of learn whatever the positions are that are available within the company. And so, but as far as like a vibe goes, I was in the same thing. So not the vibe at Steel is bad in any way. I mean, it's a company, and kind of the Cam's point earlier, like a lot of things are very similar, and it's just, military members just don't understand it, right? Because it was like so many different times people would come up to me like, oh my gosh, this must be so like shocking for you that you're in here. I'm like, well, I mean, it's an office building with cubicles. I've been in one before, and people are using acronyms, maybe have different things, but it's the same. You just have to learn the new acronyms, learn the new little, fancy things that people say when they're, trying to end conversations or whatever it is, so I don't think the transition from that standpoint is too bad, but I was in the same boat too. So the company I work at, so what I learned at Steel, I think, was that I did want a little more of that, like, I wouldn't say military kind of vibe, but what our company does, they like to kind of tout it as like a ready room. And a ready room, for if you're not familiar, so think of an aircraft carrier. Think of when there's like a bunch of people in flight suits and they're all kind of together and they're joking around. You'll see it like in Top Gun, like when they're all in a room and they're all just kind of goofing around and stuff. So something like that, where it's a little, it's formal, and obviously there's a lot of risk and everything else involved, but it's also that kind of camaraderie and stuff. So once I did the Steel thing, I was like, man, I actually kind of do like that stuff. And it was funny because in my head, as I was about to transition out, I was like, man, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to clean break from everything of like that nature. I never want to, like, by the way, my call sign is Face. I was like, if no one ever calls me Face again in my life, I was like, that's totally fine with me. And then all of a sudden I did the Steel thing, and now I'm right back. Everyone calls me Face. I like I'm back because I do this Navy stuff now. So still use a call sign, but and again, you learn, I guess I do like that and I do appreciate it. And that's something that I care about for my job. So, again, it all worked out.
I mean, sometimes you have to do something else to realize that, like, what, and I mean, I had that very similar experience. I did a very short stint at a very large company, was there less than 90 days and was like, yeah, this isn't what I signed up. This isn't what I thought it would be. I don't know why I thought I'd be happy here. All my friends were like, yeah, I didn't think you'd be happy there. And very quickly transitioned back into the world of startups.
I mean, just to kind of paint the picture of what the site looks like, and I'll rattle it off and we'll put it in the show notes so folks are aware. It's skillbridge.osd.mil, MIL. But as a seeker, a job seeker, there's industries that you can sift through. The location, right? So it's got all sorts of locations in here. Delivery method, so it's basically in person, online, or hybrid. The duration of training, so 0 to 180 days, 1 to 6 months, 1 to 30. Services, so you can, I guess, dial down by Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Navy. And then a list of every company, which there's 5,000, just about 5,000 of them in here, right? So this isn't like going to LinkedIn and give me the platter of filters where I can go and find my company size and headcount and revenue and stuff like that, right? So it's quite vanilla from a user experience perspective, which is why I'd say go into this with a grain of salt. If you really want to kind of like take it to the next level, what I would do is pair it with a tool like LinkedIn. And then between those two, you can start to get a little bit more granular of who the company is, right? Because really what you're doing is prospecting companies and trying to figure out more about them, knowing that they're a part of the program. But I think that's probably, something I would highlight that could definitely use a revamp. The other piece of this, which I think you touched on it, John, and you did probably too, as Cam, is the level of counseling that's involved with the transition for service members beyond just, hey, here's SkillBridge, it's available to you. Here's the site. Here, fill this one pager out. Is there room for improvement in that part where it's more of like almost like one-on-one counseling, the same way I would expect a student graduating from a university, which I've also heard quite poor things about, in terms of really truly being involved as a transition, as a bridge to a career. Are those areas that you would see as areas for improvement, or I don't know what the current lay of the land is, but just curious.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, yeah, they definitely could do a better job of that. The funny thing I always think though is that the military, they have a ton of great programs, and there's a ton of these things out there, and there's counseling services, and there's all these different things, and they're all available to everyone. It's just funny though, you never hear about them. And so, to me, especially, kind of looking back and thinking like, boy, wouldn't it be nice if you kind of use that to get people to join the military? Is like, we can also help you when you transition out of the military. Could be one of those selling points to actually get more, during especially times, I guess, when recruiting's getting a little soft, that, that we can help you on the back end too. And they never do that. They never mention it. It's like this, then you learn there's all these organizations. And plus, I guess, there is organizations, like there's one called Hiring Our Heroes, or yeah, I believe it's it. Hiring Our Heroes, I believe is the name of it. And it's it basically kind of is one, it helps you to filter out, figure out what you want to do, get your resume together, all that kind of stuff, then take it down to, maybe get you some job opportunities with SkillBridge, or just, I think they even do just regular, get you a job. So those places exist. Again, it's hard to find them, and it's really kind of word of mouth kind of stuff, which stinks that, there's not a formalized process or something.
I chuckled a little bit because before the episode, I was doing a quick search, and Hire Our Heroes has better SEO than the DoD, because they come up first. When if you search for SkillBridge, so somebody's doing something right over there.
And this is an episode. Go ahead, Cam.
So I was just going to say, like, John hit the nail on the head, right? There's a ton of stuff that the military does do that's out there, but you don't hear about it. And then when you go look for it, like, at least when I got out, it was kind of hard to figure out what to do next. You could be like, oh, cool, this is available, but what do I do? And that got really hard. So to give you that, like, and then pairing with like a LinkedIn and SkillBridge is 100% the way to go. So what SkillBridge didn't exist when I got out. And so my wife made me a LinkedIn with my DD-214. I was like, all right, good luck, Cam. And like, so I was going back to school. So the first thing I did was like start reaching out to people that had careers that were similar to mine in industries that I thought were appealing. And I would just like hit them up on LinkedIn and be like, hey, can we get coffee? Or do you have 20 minutes to chat? Blah, blah. And that helped me start to like kind of maneuver a little bit through all the stuff that was coming, and start to kind of hone in on some certain areas with that. But I would probably interview the job placer rather than, be waiting to be interviewed as the seeker. Looking what I know now is I would get on SkillBridge, say, oh, this company looks cool. And then I'd hit them up and be like, hey, tell me about it, yada, 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 before applying to them. Right now, the military is such a big group of that's currently coming out right now too. And the talent that they have in this digital transformation era is tremendous. It's just different. And so being able to understand that it's just navigating different waters, but it's the same thing, it's there. And like, you hold your destiny in your hands, man. And you reach out to those companies and you're going to get picked up.
Yeah, it's I think what's exciting to me is that there's a ton of opportunity to expand on the program, and on our community platform here on the podcast as well, we do a lot of episodes around, this transformation of commercial technology, married to, government tech, right? And a bigger push for that, how it's being done, how it's trying to be expedited, where, in years past, maybe it was always looked at as, any sort of opportunity that's government related is archaic and I don't want a part of that. I think that's changed. That narrative is changing, as well as the ability to break in. So that kind of bleeds into this conversation of SkillBridge with, there's so many skill sets that have this ability to translate over. I would say maybe even more so in the last 10 years than they have ever before, just given the fact that industry is changing and technology is transforming all these other areas, right? So some of these skill sets, when we say work for a mission-driven company, right? That's something that means something very specific to a military service member versus maybe just working for a company that's got this vision. And I think that's what kind of stuck with me on that quote from the co-founder at Zero Eyes, is that that's one of the things that these service members bring to the table, is like this mission focus, and how well that translates to organizations that are building technologies that are mission focused as well. Just a random note too, I was just listening to a podcast this morning that was almost dialing in on a little bit of this theme of what we're talking about, but it was more focused on universities, and universities are similarly kind of having to revisit their model, because the reality is, I think the percentage of students that actually pursue a career and the degree that they pursue is quite low. And so you spend all this time in an educational program, you spend all this money towards something that you don't even really pursue. You do something different. So I think they called out Northeastern University as one of these universities that provide more of this co-op / experiential learning program throughout the course of university, where you're attending your courses, but they're also baking in actual real life world experiences where you're in a corporate setting. I think there's a lot of room for that, not just in universities, but how that could also be translated to folks that are in the military or active duty, but maybe wanting to also step foot one day every month or so into a corporate setting to kind of get a feel for that. So it's maybe not as much of a culture shock as it might be at the end of your service, just jumping in. But all that said, I guess we kind of put a bow on it at that point, unless there's anything else that you guys wanted to add before we close out with our final segment.
I'm good.
Yeah, good.
Cool. All right, well, let's transition then. We're gonna jump into this last segment called the 5-second scramble. Mike and I are going to ask each of you a series of questions. Try to give us your response within 5 seconds. A little bit of rapid fire Q&A. Some business, some fun. Mike, why don't you lead us off with John, and then I'll get to Cam.
Sounds good. And Cam, don't bother taking too many notes, because they're going to be a different set of questions. There'll be some overlap, but not too much. Anyway, so John, here we go. Explain 2-Circle to me like I was a 5-year-old.
2-Circle. It's the byline's basically tactical, technical. What we do, think of somebody who operates a piece of equipment, in our case, an airplane. Our goal in our job is basically to make that person the best person they can be. And that could be through training, that could be through software, that could be through, update of equipment, anything like that. And we will talk with, the folks that can acquire that, either training, equipment, software, whatever it is, and get it into the hands of the actual operators. So that's what we do. And think of it just, I almost think it's easier to use this kind of analogy. There's 2 ways you can basically kind of train to use an airplane, right? I can either train to fix an airplane or train to operate an airplane. We don't do much on the training to fix airplanes. We do more of the operating the airplane. So that's our focus, is on that side and making them the most kind of lethal they can be in an airplane.
Awesome. What's your favorite company value?
Ours for Two Circle?
Yeah.
Integrity.
It's a good one. It came up actually recently on a different context where that's like the number one quality you look for in a new hire, like during interviews, is integrity. And yet nobody really asked that specifically. So it's a great one. It's hard to sort of get at during an interview process, but it's something that most hiring managers are looking for in the back of their head.
Perfect.
So what type
Then
of
Nailed it.
nailed it? You nailed it. Just give me some breathing room too. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Shoot, that's going to take more than 5 seconds. Best piece of advice.
We'll edit it down.
Honestly, enjoy what you do. As long as you're enjoying what you do. And I think for me, enjoying what I do doesn't necessarily have to correspond to the exact like project or whatever I'm working on. But if you're around good people, you're, enjoying spending time with them, you're doing something together, everyone's kind of positive. To me, that's enjoying what I do.
Awesome. What type of person thrives at Two Circle?
Well, mostly retired naval aviators. That's probably your big one. So that's going to be tricky. That's a barrier to entry. But honestly, what it is, it's their big thing is being they call it a Spartan, but it's we're all kind of self-sufficient. Almost everyone works remote. So their big thing is, they hire a lot of more senior people, and with more senior people comes kind of the idea, especially when you're in the military, that people are going to kind of do a lot of stuff for you. Like, hey, I need to go fly to, California for work. And there's a person who does that for me. And it's like, no, there isn't a person who does that for you. So I know they're always real concerned when they get, when there's interviews and stuff like that of like, hey, are you going to be able to, kind of thrive on your own without like a support staff? So that kind of just mindset of getting stuff done yourself is pretty important to them.
In one word or two, what's the biggest challenge your company's facing right now?
Expansion, purposeful expansion, I guess would probably be even more to the point in that, and this kind of goes back to the ready room kind of mentality that what they have where, and again, maybe to put another piece to that ready room thing is in a ready room, it's pretty loose. Everyone kind of jokes around. It's you have kind of thick skin, like a lot of military kind of organizations, right? There's a lot of just, there's just a lot of stuff going on as far as, people calling you out, hey, you did good here, you didn't do good there. You just have to, you develop a thick skin for that. So kind of having that culture, right? But then once you start expanding more and more, can you keep that culture the same? And it truly is a struggle. And it's, and they go back and forth and people go back and forth because you talk about it. It's like, okay, well, if you expand at some point, our biggest problem, right, in a company, when I jokingly say, you hire people that basically served 20 years as naval aviators, that pool of human beings is just small. There's just not a lot of talent out there. And once you kind of go past those walls of that's our talent pool, now you're bringing in other people. They don't maybe know that culture. And then how do you kind of maintain it? So that's, that's what I would say the biggest kind of obstacle.
Awesome. I appreciate it. What was your dream job as a kid?
First dream job would be garbage man. So that, it's pretty easy. I, would just watch them and actually no biggie here. Don't like to toot my own horn, but around, it's probably like 4 or 5. I actually got to pull the lever down that smashes the back of the,
that's
pretty
cool.
like into the actual thing. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's solid.
So
that's cool. I took my kids to a truck touch where they got to do that. It was awesome. Everybody loved it. What's the largest land animal you think you could take in a street fight? No weapons, just you and the land animal.
Me and a land animal. Okay.
Yeah, because people would say whale and that doesn't count. Like I'm talking like something that you could, that would fight on land.
I mean, I guess, Mike, I'd have to call that person. Are they saying they could take a whale like in a fight?
I mean, if it's on land, it'll just die, right? I mean,
no, you're saying no. I just have to wait off the whale. I got it. I have to wait the whale out. Got it. I guess that goes vice versa. If you take a line in the water or something. Largest land animal that I think I could take in a fight. I mean, I don't think I can go any bigger than a dog, right? And probably a domesticated dog at that, like not like a wild dog.
That's funny.
Sounds good. What's something you hate to do but are really good at?
I'm trying to think of stuff around my house that my wife's always making me do. 'Cause I'm sure there's a lot of those. I'll tell you what, painting. I hate painting, but I'm good at it.
What's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
There's a thing called Fisher House. So just think of, what a Ronald McDonald House is for hospitals where families can stay there if, their child or whatever's in the hospital. So Fisher House basically does the same thing, but for VA hospitals. So it's just an incredible organization. So they have them near a lot of like the bigger VA hospitals. And it's my wife, her father, he was a Vietnam vet. He did a bunch of stuff, but he was in the hospital for quite a while. And my wife and my mother-in-law and my daughter, actually, when she was born, stayed there off and on. It was like I said, I'm in Norfolk. That was in Richmond, which is about an hour and a half or so drive from here. And they would stay there, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, the place itself, actually, it's a really nice house. They, they provide everything almost for you. There's other folks there, kind of support staff, kind of thing. It's incredible. And as a charity, it's like one of those ones with super low admin fees and all that kind of stuff. They don't take anything off top. Tons of donations, stuff like that. So just a really, really great organization.
Great. And last one, what's a movie you can rewatch again and again and never get sick of?
I mean, there's a bunch. I'm trying to think of what's the last one I tried to convince. My daughter's 13. She'll be 14 next month. So I've been trying to get her to watch a lot of good movies. And by good movies, movies that I like, obviously.
Right.
I can watch Zoolander over and over. And I can also tell you that she
Nice.
quasi hates it. I wouldn't say she totally hated it, but she pretty much hates it. And, that's one of those, and that's the most disappointing thing, right? Like you sit there with your daughter and like, I look over and I have a huge smile on my face and she's just like flipping through her cell phone. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this, it's like you've dashed all my hopes for you to have an awesome sense of humor. So, yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well done. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Love Zoolander. Cam, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Describe Zero Eyes to me as if I were a 5-year-old.
A weapons detection company that plans to save lives by saving time for first responders.
How would you describe the culture at Zero Eyes?
The vibe.
What kind of technologist thrives at Zero Eyes?
Curious, constantly curious go-getter. You got to be able to go after things and take initiative, do it, and stay curious. If you think you got to figure it out, you're way behind.
What kind of tech roles are you all hiring for?
Engineering, product, project management, install team, across the board.
All right, putting your investor hat on, what's one of the most valuable pieces of advice that you would give to a founder that's looking to start a business in 2024, 2025?
Always go into the room thinking about what you don't know instead of thinking about what you do.
What's your favorite app on your phone?
Currently, it's the TriDot app. It's a workout program because I'm doing an Ironman in October. But other than that, I would say either the Libby app, which is the library app that you can put audiobooks on, or podcasts.
Cool. What's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
BCAN for bladder cancer. My wife is a multiple-time bladder cancer survivor, so BCAN.
Cool. And we'll put both of those in the show notes to raise some additional awareness. If you could have dinner with any celebrity, past or present, who would it be with?
Ooh, Larry David.
Big Seinfeld guy?
Yes, I am. And Curb.
Yeah, and Curb. What is the worst fashion trend that you've ever followed?
Socks with slides.
Yeah, that's social suicide, man.
Yeah.
Um,
I work remote, so I get away with it a lot more than I still do it frequently, right?
are you a Crocs guy, or are you just true slides like Adidas sliders?
Slides? I have tried to go away with the slides, but it's just so convenient, and yeah.
Last one. What is one thing that's on your bucket list that you haven't checked off yet?
So I want to do the U.S. Open, the Ryder Cup, and the Open, but I have done the Masters and the PGA. So I want to round out, and the Players. So I want to round out the 4 majors plus the Ryder, and yeah, I want to do them all at historic courses too. So the Old
That's
Course,
awesome.
Pebble, yeah.
Little humble brag there with the Masters. I know that's like everybody's bucket list that's a golf fan. So
Yeah, it is something that everybody needs to do too. It is so different than TV.
awesome. All right. Well, that's a wrap. I wanted to thank you guys for a great discussion and your insights. I think this is all, super valuable to the next wave of service members that are going to be transitioning into civilian world. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. I hope today's episode inspires you to think more about how you might be able to hire a service member for your business. And thank you both for joining us on the pod.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.